long time. This is probably the longest struggle launched in this world by any people for the liberation and for overthrow of the foreign domination. Behind
we at the QLC Law College are very lucky today to have a galaxy of distinguished guests from the South Asian region, and we would have desired to hear all of them.
Mr. Gujral who will speak.
So that stage is a human rights activist, Mr. Balakrishna from Sri Lanka. I request Mr. Balakrishna to kindly come on the rostrum and say a few words for us.
And more importantly, common values coming out of all great religions and human values. But unfortunately, we are much more divided because of the vested interest of our politics. So the real challenge for us is how to transform our divided past into a shared future. To create South Asia as a peaceful home for South Asians. However, to ensure the peaceful coexistence in South Asia. When I say coexistence, it is to create our societies safe for differences. We have a dual strategy. One is, it is our own struggle within our national boundaries, that we have to struggle for democracy. The democracy that recognizes universality and indivisibility of human rights. The democracy that recognizes accountable and transparent governance. The democracy that recognizes the diversity of pluralism and that manages the differences. The democracy that recognizes participation and inclusion of all our identities. More importantly, the democracy that opposes the values of the rule of law. It is on this struggle that we need to create our national communities as democratic communities. And then we also have another mission of a mutual collaborative approach as South Asians. I fully endorse Mr. Kudit Nair that our political leaderships cannot achieve this target. It is the committed citizens of this country have to get together, forge our alliances with dedication and commitment to reach this vision to create South Asia as a peaceful home for South Asians. Thank you very much.
Nepal, great neighboring country of Nepal, a human rights activist, a person who has struggled for democratization of his country and for setting up a just order in his country, the former Finance Minister of Nepal, Dr. Jagindra Raj Pandey. I request Dr. Pandey to come and discuss.
I am very pleased to be here with my colleagues from South Asia and Gujral. I thank you for your gracious welcome. Echoing the sentiments of my colleagues who have just spoken, and not wishing to come between you and our principal speaker, Mr. Gujral, I will be very short. I will start by telling you how I wish to become a South Asian in addition to becoming a Nepali. Much of my life I studied development, practiced development, whether as a civil servant or as a political personnel, and even as a citizen. But the more we try to develop our countries, the worse seems to be the situation, be it at the political level, at the social or economic. This happened mostly because of inadequacies that are there within our society, be it our feudal traditions, our social structure, or the weaknesses within the political domain. Lot has to do also, however, with our inability to work together in the region. While many other regions advance, collaborating with each other, putting their resources for mutual benefit, and minimizing the differences while maximizing the commonality among them, we have not been able to do that in our own region. Coming aside from a country which is small, which actually is not that small, we appear small only because we are between two large countries, India in the south and China in the north. Nepal has a population that now approaches nearly 24 million. Out of that population, maybe 2/3 of them live in utter poverty, most of the time deprived of the human rights and of the political rights, because we have suffered through history with a hereditary rule of one kind or another. When you try to practice democracy for short terms, it remains short term and we reverse back to an authoritarian regime of one kind or another. In this, sometimes we also suffer from a sense of ambivalence about democracy on our own. We feel sometimes democracy is a Western concept, is culturally not suited to our own land and our values. And by thinking like that, I think we end up doing damage to ourselves. To me, democracy means fear for simple things. I should be allowed to live as a human being and be treated equally with any other. I should have a government that is elected by me. I should have a government that's accountable to me, and I should have a right to express my opinion. These are universal values without which I don't think any human civilization can prosper. So it is in this vein that I have joined in later years of my life the human rights movement as well as movement for democratization in Nepal. But I realized that in Nepal we cannot do this on our own, and we need to work at this at a regional level. I have been a volunteer South Asian for the last 20 years or so, and look forward to working with you in Pakistan and the rest of the region in the realization of this dream of South Asia that's at peace in itself, that works together for the development of all peoples regardless of creed, religion and language, and can be proud of its heritage as we move along in the international community. Sometimes I feel, and I travel abroad, and I do quite often, we are not being treated with the kind of respect that we used to get earlier. And believe me, it doesn't happen only to the Muslims. It happens to us also. Because we are looked upon as a people who have so much potential, and somehow we have to have lived up to it. We are looked upon as the people who are dependent on others all the time, and not harnessing the resources that are within us. If we have to work together, I think we can reverse that process, and I leave you with these thoughts. May God help us in doing that. Thank you.
Daily Star Dhaka, Mr. Nafuz Anam. Mr. Nafuz Anam.
Thank you. I am indeed honored and privileged to be able to speak to you today. As a journalist, I would like to speak to you about some sort of a vision of South Asia. I think it is very natural to be proud as a Pakistani, proud as an Indian, proud as Sri Lankan, Bangladeshi, Nepali. But how much pride do we have in our hearts as a South Asian?